Over the last few months, a clear pattern has emerged across Pakistan. Individuals with long histories of organizing cross-border violence are being eliminated, one, by operatives the local media has simply dubbed unknown men. While these kinetic strikes happen in the shadows, a highly visible, aggressive legal campaign is operating in parallel, directly out of New Delhi. This data visualization tracks the recent expansion of India's domestic terror watch list. Using the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, or UAPA, the Ministry of Home Affairs just designated a block of 23 new individuals as terrorists, driving the total number on this list to 80. Looking closely at this new block, we see a specific mix. 6 of these targets are Indian nationals who radicalized and relocated to places like Afghanistan and Pakistan. The other 17 are Pakistan-based operatives. By pairing quiet assassinations abroad with loud, unilateral legal designations at home, India is signaling a complete departure from its historical posture of passive border defense. They are actively hunting threats at the source. At the same time, New Delhi has completely shut down the traditional diplomatic backchannels. The era of quiet peace talks between India and Pakistan is over. This diplomatic freeze extends to critical infrastructure. India has placed a hard pause on any negotiations regarding the Indus Water Treaty, laying down a strict ultimatum. You cannot negotiate water rights while simultaneously providing sanctuary to armed militants. The sanctuaries in question provide highly structured logistical support. We are talking about open recruitment drives, consistent financial backing, weapon supplies, and organized drone delivery systems designed to push arms across the Indian border. To understand why India finally lost patience and took matters into its own hands, we have to look away from the line of control. The root of this regional shift is a massive, systemic legal failure on the global stage. When a country wants global recognition of a militant threat, they bring it here. The United Nations Security Council evaluates the evidence and, in theory, officially designates the group as an international terrorist organization. Many prominent groups operating out of Pakistan are already on this list. Lashkar-e-Taiba, for example, is heavily active and universally recognized by the UN as a terror organization. The same goes for Jaish-e-Mohammed. Yet, despite holding the highest level of international condemnation, these groups continue to organize, recruit, and operate openly. The reason they survive comes down to a diplomatic trend called justification. Instead of dismantling armed groups, elements of the international community spend their time trying to understand the root causes of their existence. When diplomats get caught up in debating the reasons behind an attack, they delay taking action. Because of this hesitation, the heavy pressure that Western powers, especially the United States, used to place on state sponsors of terror has severely dropped off. The UN Security Council can print as many lists as it wants. If the global community lacks the political will to enforce those designations with kinetic action, the label means nothing. India actually tried to solve this global paralysis decades ago. In 1996, they proposed the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism. The proposed treaty demanded 3 strict global commitments: universally criminalize international terror, freeze all associated financing, and permanently eliminate geographic safe havens. In a rare moment of alignment, China actively backed India, agreeing a strict global framework was necessary. The blockade actually came from the West. Both the United States and the European Union refused to fully support the treaty. Their objection was semantic. Western powers feared that a rigid definition of terrorism would violate international humanitarian laws. They wanted a carve-out to protect groups engaged in armed struggles for self-determination. Pakistan immediately weaponized this exact legal gray area. They argued that militant groups mounting attacks into Kashmir should not face global sanctions, claiming these fighters were acting in the name of self-determination against foreign occupation. A semantic disagreement over where a freedom fighter ends and a terrorist begins entirely derailed the treaty. The world's best chance at a unified legal framework died in debate. Nearly 30 years later, the international justice system is still paralyzed by this exact same loophole. India's recent actions are a direct response to this gridlock. By rapidly expanding their UAPA designations and halting talks on the Indus Water Treaty, New Delhi is applying the pressure that the United Nations will not. This is also the grim logic behind the unknown men. When global courts fail to dismantle militant infrastructure, covert assassinations become a brutal substitute for legal action. This sets a highly volatile precedent. Without a universal, binding standard to prosecute international violence, nations are left to interpret justice on their own terms and enforce it across borders. Until the international community agrees on a single definition of terrorism and strips away the justifications, collective security simply does not exist. Instead, regional conflicts will increasingly be decided in the shadows.
If you value clarity over chaos, explore more on Clear Lens X.